stakeholders to attend this webinar, where we would like to share our journey of being a data-driven organization, the continuation of it. The meeting is being recorded, and note that some people do not have cameras, so thank you very much for those who have switched it on. I'm going to not ask for introductions. I think we all know everyone on the score. It's just a quick proof of life to see there's no AI bots checking up on us. But I'd like to wish you a warm welcome, and I'm going to start the slideshow so we can at least take you through the intended program for today. There we go. A quick indication whether one can see it. Is it visible to everyone? I think so. I assume it is visible to everyone now.
Yes, Jacques, it's all good.
Thank you. All right, thanks. And thank you to Mushfika for monitoring the chat box for us. I'm going to go through the program very briefly. We'll be having the opening as we've just done at the moment. I'll be taking you a little bit of the background and just setting the scene for this afternoon's discussion. It's broken up into two main parts. The first part's going to be covering our journey to date, where Dr. Zinat Ismail will be covering our strategic context. Then Mr. Peter Wasserval will talk to the data governance context, and thereafter the leads on our different outcome areas will be looking at the delivery context. We'll be hearing from Ms. Julie Verhulp, Mr. Faisal Noordin, Mr. Jacques Barnard, and Ms. Amina Mohammed, Ms. Mushfika Sali, Mr. Tahir Saban, and myself. Then I will be handing back to Zinat to discuss the journey going forward, and thereafter we will have a Q&A session. In terms of the procedure for this afternoon, I would ask that you can please ensure that you are muted. If not, we will ask someone to mute you so we do not disturb any of the speakers. We will have very, very short chances for Q&A between various sections, between just after the data governance context and just after the delivery context, because we want to really focus on having the discussion session at the end to bring everything together. If you do have questions, please jot them down in the chat box. We will scan through those and come back to them if we have time at the end, and bringing it all together. Okay, so just very briefly, any I don't know if there's any questions at this stage. I don't think so. Is there any burning questions? Zinat, anything that you'd like to say to start off with? All right, then I'm going to jump straight into just setting the scene for us. And when you embark on a journey of data governance, as we have over the last few years, you come to realize it's a daunting prospect. And it's much like an explorer who's setting sail to discover faraway lands with the dreams of finding something precious to improve the lives of his or her crew, or even possibly the entire country. As you know, in the past, kings used to send people on these quests. Explorers have always encountered storms and dangers on their quest, and the data governance journey is no different. And in this quest, in our organization, it's about unpacking or getting the benefit from improved data and evidence that's going to help us inform better planning and better decision making. It'll help to improve the trust and creditworthiness of our data and evidence, and it will instill standards and practices that ensure this better quality. As far as starting with anything new, your journey is always difficult, and there's often many, many critics. On this journey, the many storms and challenges that we encountered and will be encountering going forward, some of these are visible and some of them are very mild, but others are ship sinkers and often not so obvious. There's always going to be a critic and a naysayer sitting around the corner, but believing that you're doing the right thing is important, and you need to overcome any negativity and challenges that you encounter. We don't like to call them problems, they're just challenges. So the journey we are taking our fellow data users and producers on this with us to build a better skilled sailors. It's going to help us doing the right thing right, doing it in the right way. A firm belief that this is the right journey and a strong leadership are essential to achieving success there. If you don't believe it, you're not going to achieve it. And we hope that this journey we wish to share with you today will attest to the courage and determination and the success of our own data governance journey in the Western Cape Government. I'd like to now hand over to Dr. Ishmael to give us a bit of a background on the strategic context. Zina?
Thank you, and welcome everyone. I want to kickstart the strategic context for data governance, or the journey that we have taken since we've last spoken 2 years ago about the journey, or trying to bring components together to say how we actually have established this journey, how we're optimizing, and how we want to sustain. So the policy contexts have actually changed since then. But suffice to say that we have taken on this data governance journey simply to bring the policy data value chain closer together and to strengthen the policy data decision-making value chain. So each department have a particular role, but where we sit in the Department of the Premier now, it was critical to leverage the PSP with the strategic data and evidence. But we couldn't do so if we didn't walk the journey to become a trusted data partner. And thinking back of COVID, the partnership with all the departments, the partnership in terms of shifting from individual data initiatives to much more collaborative data initiatives. And that, over the past 5 years, the philosophy as described by JDP earlier on was practicalized within the context of being comfortably known that that the PDO is a trusted data partner. Thank you. So you can move the slide. So within that context of being a trusted data partner, that there's a policy and service delivery environment, and the role of the Department of the Premier to direct, to enable, and to guide. I just want to take one step back. And that was just a small achievement in the bigger scheme, where government, as a central pathway, should be using data for change. And this is a diagram that we kind of used before. If you go into the literature, you'll find similar diagrams. But very importantly, it is that government in itself and its collaboration with the citizen, civil society, and academia, and the private sector, that is critical to get that value chain between the producing, collecting data, and to get social impact. So yes, this may be theory, but we have done this, we've achieved this in a number of areas. So we have worked with partners in the health space, education space. We have looked at data, what the residents are saying, what our own performance data are saying, what other statistical organizations are saying, or private sectors, and trying to position what is the social impact. Thank you. So bringing that closer to home now. For the past 5 years, the journey was to improve society through data ecosystems, to transform the production, use, and coordination of data through collaboration and innovation, so that government can make data-driven decisions that promote informed service delivery. All we are as a trusted data partner, all we want to do, advance Western Cape government as a data and driven organization in collaboration with partners. So the previous slide showed the gaps and the journey, or where we still need to sail the ship in collaboration with partners, and where we still need to sail the ship in bringing different data sources from different partners together to strengthen that data ecosystem. That's all I want to share, JDP, and want to hand over to Peter to actually share the journey that has been walked from a data governance context within a broader scheme of our data insights, transforming data capabilities, being a responsive operating model, underpinned by a data ecosystem. And if all of us could actually go on such a journey and broaden our own journey, we collectively, on a subnational level, can use our own administrative data better for decision making. Thank you.
Thank you, Zinette. I think when one thinks about data governance, and I apologize upfront that you may be hearing terms such as policy and practice and regulation and governance ad nauseum, but unfortunately, that's the nature of this beast, or shall I say, sailor, using the shipping analogy. So yes, so we set sail on our data governance journey in 2006. And have navigated strong winds, storms, sunny skies, and turbulent waters to get to where we are today. This is not to say that we have seen the last of the effects of this data climate change, but rather that we are prepared. The journey began with the establishment of a province-wide monitoring and evaluation system, followed by the implementation of a framework aimed to revise and update previous frameworks and strategies, specifically for monitoring and evaluation in the Western Cape government. In 2015, the focus shifted slightly to sharing infrastructure and improving data management tools. And during this time, Provincial Cabinet then approved that we embark on a regulatory impact assessment of province-wide data governance. Now, for Western Cape government, province-wide data governance is a strategic response to the complexities that we have in government and in which we operate, specifically within the area of managing disparate data, applications, and business processes. 2019 to 2020 saw the use of data being elevated as a strategic asset, with a focus on data and evidence-based policy and the implementation of the recommendations of the regulatory impact assessment. So over the past 5 years, the adoption of standards and governance practices has been prioritized, along with the development of collaborative data frameworks. And it's over this time also that we've seen that this particular directorate, strategic management information within the Department of the Premier, has evolved into a provincial data office and is actively creating pathways or shipping lanes for Western Cape government to become a data-driven organization. So in recognition of this evolution and supported by the recommendations of the impact assessment, a data governance policy framework has been adopted to bring together the various data policies, legislation, and legal instruments. So this journey reflects the Western Cape government's commitment to using data to improve governance and service delivery. Next slide. So data policy and legislation are fundamental elements in establishing robust data governance within an organization. And there are two pieces of work that I wish to highlight and brag about here in this context, both which are living documents and are updated from time to time. So the first is the regulatory impact assessment, and this identified the gaps that there are currently in data governance from a regulatory perspective. And it highlighted the need that we develop a policy framework, whether it's underpinned by legislation while adapting the value chain approach that Zeenat has mentioned towards institutionalizing data governance. The second pieces of this work that I wish to highlight, or the second piece rather, is the actual framework. And that was established to serve as this overarching guide for our policy instruments, to provide detailed regulatory guidance, and also what our minimum data governance principles are that we would subscribe to. So, for example, we say that all our Western Cape government data must be easily discoverable and searchable, with good metadata which will contain keywords that enable the data to be discovered. The framework then discusses the institutionalization of data governance practice notes and the establishment of governance structures such as the Provincial Data Forum, the Chief Data Officer, and the departmental data champions. Key practices such as data sharing, data quality, metadata management, data classification are also prioritized. And it also emphasizes the implementation of the framework with regular reviews and updates. So importantly, highlighting that this is not just a document that lies there, but that we actually revisit it often. So I, for example, have it open on my desktop every day. It also defines the roles and responsibilities of key positions. It emphasizes the importance of data governance in ensuring data quality and integration and compliance with relevant laws. And finally, the framework underscores our transformation into a data-driven organization. And so I mentioned the 9 minimum data governance principles that it instills. It recognizes the influence of global events, such as COVID-19, and also collaborating across our departments and stakeholders to provide guidance on data strategy, evidence-informed decision-making, collaborative initiatives, and so forth. The framework ultimately serves as a building block for a 5-year data strategy, where we focus on collaborative initiatives to support our provincial priorities. Next slide. So data governance in the public sector is constantly evolving, and it resembles a dynamic data landscape. So we are proud to have established a responsive operating model that outlines key strategies for developing innovative business processes and also adopting best practices. So our responsive operating model emphasizes the importance of communities of practice, as well as partnerships with government and non-government stakeholders. Stakeholders such as Statistics South Africa, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, geospatial data providers such as GeoTerra Image, and partnerships with the likes of the Pan-Africa Collective for Evidence are just a few to be mentioned. The role of data coordination steering committees in areas such as energy, mental health, and safety are crucial. They not only oversee and guide data governance strategies and policies, but also ensure that data is managed effectively, securely, and in a way that supports our strategic objectives. Our global data forums at different levels and spheres of government serve a common interest, as do our advocacy platforms, such as the Provincial Data Forum and the Western Cape Spatial Information Forum. Advocacy focuses on effective communication, using new tools and emerging technologies. And then to cap it all, annual data governance maturity assessments serve as a benchmark to track and develop the data governance journey. So this is a comprehensive approach, and it ensures a responsive and adaptive operating model that we leverage data infrastructure and strengthen our methodologies associated with it across our services. Thank you, Jacques.
Thank you, Peter. And along this journey, we've encountered a couple of treasures. And today, as part of the delivery context, we'd like to share some of these treasures that we've discovered and built along the way. I want to start off by just telling you, sorry, so next slide, there we go. It's about the key data and evidence products that deepen our data analytics and analysis, and it sustains a provincial system of quality indicators. So I'm going to hand over now to Faisal and the team to take it forward for our delivery context. Thank you, Faisal.
Thank you, Jacques. So this slide highlights some of our key publications and data trends which we deliver on constantly. So the first publication is on measuring results using key outcome indicators, also called our outcome indicator release. With this one, the Provincial Data Office has a long history of delivering on this product annually, going back more than 10 years. But in those years, improvements have been made in the sourcing of reliable data, expanding on the indicators reported, as well as a lot of improvements in terms of the formatting and layout of the publication. The current version provides data trends on approximately 90 outcome indicators, which are linked to relevant policy priorities or goals. At the global level, these are the Sustainable Development Goals. At the national level, the National Development Plan, and at the provincial level, the Provincial Strategic Plan. The indicators are presented according to the Universal Statistical Themes, as this provides a longer-term constant rather than adjusting to changing policy priorities. Data for the publication is sourced from Statistics South Africa as the custodian of official data, but also various national and provincial administrative data. The data on the indicators are presented as 5-year trends, but the publication is supported by a range of dashboards which allow for longer-term views where the data is available, and also faster updates as soon as the data is released. The next publication is measuring results using key service delivery indicators. This is a product the PDO has delivered for the past 5 years, and the current iteration provides data on about 155 key service delivery indicators in the Western Cape. The indicators used in this publication is sourced from our provincial performance indicator framework, which is an indicator framework of all the performance indicators reported on by our provincial departments and entities. The indicators are once again presented according to the Universal Statistical Themes. The data used to report on the indicators is sourced from the EQPRS, which is the reporting system for the national and provincial departments, and also the performance recorded in the annual reports of departments and entities, as this provides the audited performance data. Again, the data is presented as 5-year trends, and we currently are working on developing dashboards to support this release. Jamie?
Okay, thank you, Faisal. An integrated performance report is presented quarterly to key stakeholders to share socioeconomic and performance data against performance targets set in the annual performance plans as well as the provincial strategic implementation plan. The quarterly achievements of all provincial institutions are represented in this report, and it provides stakeholders with a helicopter view of government's performance in improving the lives of citizens in the Western Cape. The source system also is used to extract data for this report that includes administrative and official data. Departmental achievements are also packaged as performance highlights contributing towards the thematic areas within the PSIP, and this shares their story and a footprint in the transversal space. Next slide. Right, on indicator frameworks, an important part of our data governance and improvement journey was to develop and maintain a comprehensive indicator framework. So the Provincial Performance Indicator Framework annually shares all the performance indicators and supporting data across all 23 our Western Cape government institutions. That includes our departments and public entities. Currently, we have just under 1,000 performance indicators maintained in this framework, and validated performance against APP targets are updated quarterly. This framework is also an important mechanism to link indicators to service delivery and provincial priorities that include the Provincial Strategic Implementation Plan, vulnerable priority groups, a service delivery index, as well as universal statistical themes. We have an outcome indicator framework where our indicators are aligned to global, national, and regional policy priorities and the development goals. These include the SDGs, National Development Plan, the PSIP, amongst others. Currently, we have about 100 indicators in this framework, which we update regularly. For example, the next year, the country and the province will enter into a new 5-year strategic period, and we will look to align and include outcome indicators which measure the goals both nationally and provincially, which come out of the strategic plans that will be produced. The outcome indicator framework is categorized according to the universal statistical themes with the different policy priority linkages as part of the metadata. Our integrated indicator framework brings together various levels of indicators against policy themes. So this would include both outcome indicators as well as the performance indicators extracted from the mentioned two frameworks. Currently, we have the IIF aligned to the Provincial Strategic Plan. As an example, this would include outcome indicators against the safety priority, performance indicators from departmental annual performance plans, which have been assessed to strongly link to these priorities, as well as performance indicators that are reported on through the PSIP automated reporting system that links to the system theme. So the IIF provides an integrated view of indicators available and reported on across departments for a particular provincial priority. Thank you. I'm handing over to Julie.
Thank you. Another index, one index that we produce is the Service Delivery Index. And this is a framework that is a quantitative measurement that paints a holistic picture in establishing the opinion and experience of government services, and more specifically, the delivery of Western Cape government services to citizens in the Western Cape at a district municipality level. The PDO has produced a pilot, a baseline, and a comparison SDI in the last 3 years. Looking at vulnerability indices, a vulnerability index is a matrix which measures the susceptibility of a system, organization, community, or environment to harm or damage from various threats. The Socioeconomic Vulnerability Index, known as the SEVI, is an index that classifies a small geographic area with regards to its socioeconomic vulnerability. The Neighborhood Lifestyle Index is a household income-based segmentation classification which groups neighborhoods according to their income and various lifestyle characteristics and is represented at an enumeration area level. The Violence and Vulnerability Index makes use of the above two indices, but with the addition of violent incident data from the previous year, which is derived from the Department of Health and Wellness database, which records each and every ambulance pickup. All data relating to the location of violent incidents, such as gunshots and stabbings, is then used in the creation of the Violence and Vulnerability Index. Next slide. In order to visualize the data, we have produced multiple dashboards. The population dashboards make note of the fact that government departments require detailed population information to inform service delivery. However, service delivery boundaries do not always align with the Stats SA census boundaries. The PDO has produced 5 population dashboards to show population breakdown to a small geographic area for various service delivery boundaries, such as SAP's Western Cape Education Department. The data is made from the Stats SA mid-year population estimates for the Western Cape, which is based on Census 2022 and is disaggregated down to an enumeration area level. The Western Cape Public-Facing Energy Dashboard is a comprehensive dashboard which offers an overview of all energy-related projects in the province, including both private sector and municipal initiatives, alongside an in-depth examination of municipal readiness. The Law Enforcement Dashboard aims to present comprehensive crime data as well as regular updates of law enforcement resources relating to things such as SAP's crime statistics, homicide data from the Forensic Pathology Services, the Law Enforcement Advancement Plan deployment statistics, as well as Western Cape Liquor Authority enforcement data, Neighbourhood Watch membership, and Community Policing Forum functionality. The Mental Health Dashboard serves as an invaluable resource providing up-to-date contact details and locations of facilities offering mental health services. Staff members such as nurses and guidance counselors rely on the data to facilitate patient referrals to the most suitable facilities, considering various factors such as focus areas and location. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. So this is about generating evaluative evidence to inform Western Cape government strategic priorities, such as our well-being priority, our jobs, our safety, and our governance priorities. It is about systematically building an evidence base over time that can be used to inform our priorities aligned to improve government service delivery and impact and measuring impact. To date, the Western Cape government has developed an evaluative evidence base of more than 90 evaluations that have been undertaken since 2011. And these evaluations have proven to be quite useful. We've conducted it aligned to departmental mandates and program interventions and initiatives. And this has been used for planning and budgeting as well as policy making. Also part of this, we've conducted a synthesis, which also reviewed the uptake and use of evaluative recommendations in Western Cape government. And these recommendations have been used to inform the design, the redesign of our programs and the improvements of our programs. From this, we've also discovered that key emerging government trends have been developed and generating insights on key lessons learned, generating insights on what's working in government and what's not working, and that can be used going forward to improve government performance. And since 2020, the Western Cape government, and particularly in the Department of the Premier, we have conducted 16 evaluations aligned to transversal priorities. Going forward, over the next 5 years, we are exploring the application of innovative methods and tools as methods of generating evidence aligned to our strategic priorities, such as our jobs, our well-being, and our safety. And for the last financial year, we've conducted an evidence synthesis in the municipal performance space aligned to non-financial performance reporting. Yesterday, we've also explored and we have showcased our evidence maps with our partner REAP, and we've developed 3 evidence maps thus far. The one is on Western Cape priority data sources. The other one was on mental health legislation policies, clinical guidelines and circulars. And the third one was in the education space aligned to also policies, education policies, regulations and guidelines. Furthermore, we've also explored over the past 4 years the utilization of surveys to serve as the voice of the citizen. So this is some takeouts on the evidence base. Thank you. Over to Mushfika.
Thank you, Amina. Jacques, can you please move to the next slide? So the transformed data and evidence service capability outcome. The work under this outcome not only focuses on building overall capabilities, but also on leveraging and enhancing the business value that we as the Provincial Data Office can extract through the services. We have had to be innovative, consistent, and we haven't been able to do it in isolation. So when we look at the people, process, and technology framework, for example, under this outcome, it's really the focus on people that comes to the forefront. And in building our data governance capabilities, we've been innovative around data governance practices, upskilling our talent and focusing on specific specialized skills. And we've also done this through partnerships. Some of the partners that we have worked on include the Pan-African Collective for Evidence that Peter mentioned earlier on, as well as the Provincial Training Institute and other departments. So how have we done this? Over the last 4 years, this outcome has really streamlined our data and evidence capability programs. In light of changes in our operating environment when it comes to budget, unforeseen disasters, we've tapped into strategic partnerships for this capacity building. We've co-created products and really, as I've mentioned previously, the extraction of the product value. And what we've also done is that we have moved product through different areas of work of the PDO, transforming content and skills development, working with departments and our partners, as well as the external stakeholders. So for example, the data governance practice notes webinar that we had yesterday was really a capacity building initiative of a product that we had delivered. So how have we done this? Our data and evidence practice notes have been formulated to guide the direction of where the Western Cape government is heading, capturing data standards and practices that we aspire to embed in our strategic and operational business. We also have developed capacity building curriculum, particularly in partnership with the Provincial Training Institute as well as SPACE, and we are delivering it via the Moodle platform and a social online learning platform known as REAP. Then we do technical support to government departments on planning and reporting processes as well as our evaluations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mushfiqah. And we've started seeing how the foundation is set by the strategy and all the policies and so forth. You've seen how the indicators being put together, how that's put into practice and then eventually evaluated and working together. Now we want to present some of these products and we use the data portals for that in collaboration with many of the other partners that we do have, like the Centre for Innovation and obviously our colleagues in departments, and specifically in our people management space and financial management space, treasury. We have two main products under the portals. The one is the data portal, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I think every one of you I've seen as a user on the site. If you're not, then please speak to me ASAP. On the portal currently, there's about 1,500 artifacts, but many of those are navigational and headings and so forth. So I would estimate about 2/3 of those are used in decision support. There's more than 2,300 active users that use the site, and it's being extended pretty soon to our local municipalities as well as provincial entities to cover the list of all of those entities that JB covers with these indicators that they track. There's also new and interactive dashboards and reports that are added regularly, and they're always linked to the statistical themes. You would have noticed that a flavor across the entire discussion today is that everyone talks about linking to our universal statistical themes. They do not change. Strategies may, but that is why we have decided to link all of our products to the universal statistical themes, so it makes it easier for people to find all the different content. The Open Data Portal, and at this stage, as I mentioned, the Western Cape Data Portal is for internal users, but we will expand that to our local authorities and provincial entities. The Open Data Portal is publicly accessible. And as part of the Growth for Jobs project, Growth for Jobs initiative, one of the projects is making more data related to jobs and employment accessible, especially to business and academia. This is a vehicle that can be used for that. And currently our Open Data Portal has got more than 90 content items. Those include data as well as spatial data, spatial and non-spatial, as well as spatial applications and non-spatial applications like Power BI. And we also have documents that we can share on there to make it available to citizens. In the last year or so, there's been more than 6,000 views, so it is definitely being used, and we are expanding on that regularly. The spatial data warehouse is also maintained by our unit, and the data sets that are within there have been managed centrally for more than 10 to 15 years, and those are used in all maps produced within the Western Cape government. It's a standard that all departments currently are abiding by. Each of the data sets have got full metadata as our standard, and what Peter alluded to right at the outset in terms of our practice notes. So it's good examples that are being set there. I'd like to hand over to Tahir.
Thank you, Jacques. Yeah, Peter mentioned all the big words like governance and policy. I'm going to introduce to you a cool tool today, and this is called the Western Cape Government Performance Tracker. This tool currently being developed to enhance transparency, drive accountability, and enable data-driven decision-making across our operations. By design, this tool, when fully realized, will be one of the leading government performance trackers. This tracker will provide a comprehensive view of performance, integrating both financial data and non-financial data. It combines static and dynamic dashboards, enriched with embedded narratives and web-based reports, ensuring that our decisions are always informed by accurate and relevant data. Our goal is to tell the right performance stories by reinforcing results-based indicators with quality data. Through strong collaboration with our users, we'll identify and address data gaps, ensuring that performance stories we tell are reflective of our true performance, the lived reality, and our targeted problem areas. Leveraging the integrated indicator framework and the Western Cape Government Data Portal, we will continuously strengthen our indicators to tell stories that inform our resource allocation choices and improve our decisions and actions. This product will be developed progressively in collaboration with our partners and stakeholders, including CI, Provincial Treasury, and provincial departments. We do recognize that this is a journey that involves adopting new technologies, and that partnership is crucial to fully realizing this tool's potential. In conclusion, this tool, to timely realize the design value, we need to collectively drive with our partners and our stakeholders, results-based indicators, sharing of data, and using technology to integrate, explore, visualize, and analyze data to deliver insights. These insights will contribute to acknowledging our circumstances, understanding the root causes, informing relief measures, spatially addressing socioeconomic distress, and addressing low economic growth and disparities. This tool will significantly contribute to government as a central pathway in the use of data for change. Thank you. Over to you, Jacques du Preez.
Thank you, Tahir. I think before we go further, where Zenit will now show us some of the key initiatives, are there any questions that anyone may have at this stage in terms of the strategic context and the delivery context? I haven't seen any jotted down in the chat box. I see Tim's hand is up. Tim?
Good afternoon. First of all, good afternoon to Dr. Ishmael. It's my first chance to say hello to Dr. Ishmael. I'm very glad to see the change in title. And thank you, Jacques and colleagues. Jacques, two questions. One of those you just mentioned about soon to be launched to the municipalities and expanding to the local authorities. If you could expand on that, please. And is that tied in with the Department of Local Government's portal that they are establishing? I'm not sure if it's related, one and the same, or something different. And then thank you very much to Tahir, the integrating the performance tracker. You've mentioned that it is a journey with various partners. And certainly in terms of the growth of jobs and the project management, the way that we are managing those projects, we are trying very hard to have our indicators in there. And I welcome the opportunity to plug in with your program if it's not in there already, and the people who are doing that. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Maybe I can hand over to Tahir if he'd like to ask a question, if he would like to answer the question on the performance tracker first.
Yeah, Tim, we're quite aware about the G4J and the wonderful work you guys have been doing there, and the need for the indicators as well. We are liaising with, between Faisal, Jacques, Bonnet, and myself, we're liaising with CI as well to track what you guys are doing and ensuring that we collaborate and represent a sort of united front to actually work with you on it. So we are aware of it, and we will be engaging you as well. Thanks for that.
Now, thanks, Tim. And linked to the access outside the organization, as you will know, we'll be using business to business that functionality. The users have been identified in municipalities and provincial entities through the various forums, one of them being the people that Jacques Barnard deals with from a performance management perspective, the others being from a development planning perspective. We use their forum list, as well as the Western Cape Spatial Information forum list. We've identified those. They'll be given access, granted access via the business process. The local government data portal that is there, that is being run by Nabil. And I've got very sad news today. I don't see him on the call, but I heard that he has found greener pastures. I still need to chat with him. I see NB there. I'm not sure whether it's Nabil. Maybe he can comment on that. But yes, that will be handed over to whoever is going to be taking over that responsibility. They have a municipal data portal. It is already part of the Western Cape data portal. You will find it under business information.
Thank you.
So it certainly is part of it. Thanks. Any other questions at this stage? Great, then I'm going to hand over to Zenit. It will take us into our future perspective. Thank you, Zenit.
Yes, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Tim. And as you could see, What we want to embark on going forward, it is also take off my own studies that I've done and using Western Cape government as a case study. So during that journey, as you know, we have interviewed quite a number of people. But the work is also investing back into the Western Cape government. And that is before I actually reached the shores as JDP have philosophized, not like today. And there are young government officials in the space in data and evidence that want to become specialists and also want to embark onto the seas. And some of us are right in the middle, and we just waiting for a few years to come that we actually just land on the seas. But having said that, so yes, so the journey was about developing a data governance model, but that is not all that we cannot achieve this overnight. So what we, as the PDO, said, you know what, we will do that journey step by step or sail the waters across the 5 years and just see how we could actually collaborate more, improve our collaboration, not only internally across 13 departments, but much broader. So we are kind of good in producing, in production, but we need to strengthen that coordination so that we strengthen actually our ecosystem. And that is where we want to go. So next step, so I've taken my own study, shared it with a full PDO, all of them, all of us, to say, you know what are we going to take further? Taking it from the rear to the data governance policy framework as a building block for a data strategy going forward. So we said, these initiatives to institutionalize a public sector data governance model as a cross-government, there is not such a model. So, yes, I'm not going to go into detail. If we take certain core elements of data governance across the strategic and delivery context, what can we start with the resources that we have? What can we do to make a difference for the Department of the Premier, but more so Western Cape government, more so across, what can, on an Africa content, what can we do? And what can we advocate, as Mushfika has said? So it is about the government-wide data strategy supported by a legal framework for data governance. The legal framework, we don't have a bill, but as we have a data governance policy framework, which is suffice. But extremely important, what we need to do better. We need our clear data requirements communicated to all our stakeholders across our policy, data and technology value chain. And at the next Provincial Data Forum, 29th of August, we're going to start this journey because we cannot do it alone. Where the policy context will be presented from the onset. And how can we have clear data requirements for the next 5 years? And we need you to articulate that data requirements. But more so, we spoke about data governance practice notes. Some of it is actually about procedures, but we need to strengthen our data and skills capability. It's not that we haven't done so, but that is higher on the agenda. That is what everybody is asking. But we need to give effect to our core elements. If you think back, when we went to MTech, the questions are being asked using a MITS model. What do you maintain? What do you introduce? What do you terminate? What do you sustain? But getting onto that waters, getting into that ship. Over the past 5 years, we have established a data governance model. We have not centralized it perfectly or coordinate perfectly, but we need to strengthen that way. Yet it's central, but also transversal. Not only Western Cape, we're trying to push it across South Africa, and we're really trying to take the message out into Africa. Hence this participation in the Africa Evidence Network. But we need to optimize, because we need to look at our decision making, not only in the Department of the Premier, not only in the Department of Health or in Education or in Social Development, and just using any department's name now, but it's also about government-wide. So we want to start this next 5 years, position government as a central actor in data governance, with appointed leadership for data-led decision-making. So we're punting that, and this we want to articulate in our data strategy. But very importantly, we need to collaborate with our national statistical system. We are not doing that. We may have partnerships or we do presentations together, but there's no across government, there's no formalized collaboration with the national statistical system on data policy and legislation or on data and skills transfer. So I cannot retire this year, because I need to make sure that we collaborate with the national statistical system on data policy, data and skills transfer. So we need to create a desired state for a coordinated and a transversal system for data governance at a subnational level. And that is the agenda that we want to push across the next 5 years. But these policy implications to be taken forward by public sector, and this is what we're pushing. And believe me, I think it was it a month ago, or yeah, the 18th of July, where I think a day before the State of the Nation address, we were asked to present to the DG of DPME. I think we got a day notice. And within that day, we needed to pull together a presentation on the data work. It's not this presentation. We can always share that presentation too. But we did not say no to the opportunity, although it was 1 day notice. But it was our opportunity to give the message to the DG of DPMA, where we need to make data central to government and society. And that takes you back to that very first slide, which I said you'll find in literature. But we need to position government as a key pathway in public sector data governance. What we're doing, what we have done, Peter said, he bragging, Jacques du Preez spoke about the treasures, but there's much more still to be achieved. So what we're trying to establish unified data governance system for effective data collaboration. Because we can do much more when we collaborate. And that is to be embedded within our data policy technology chain. We need to synchronize our data policies with the amendment of the National Statistical Act, and I believe it's on the desk of the President to be signed. And that will be an achievement for South Africa. And there's people in this room that played a significant role in the Stats Council to see that coming to the fore. But we need to practice data-driven decision-making, even in our policy making planning and budgeting cycle. And now is the perfect opportunity. So JB, for example, will now sail that waters because we need to practice data-driven decision making in that next 5-year cycle. And you'll see a difference at the next Provincial Data Forum because we are trying. And we need to enhance that data governance to institutionalize our sound practices. And we're starting, even if it was only the beginning yesterday with the evidence practice notes. But there are many more to come. Thank you. And finally, we're saying we don't stop with our research. We challenge each other. We're going to do further research in public sector data governance that can create awareness, reposition, and strengthen data governance institutionally, not only in the Western Cape, but in our country. It's an opportune time, but we need to establish the readiness to institutionalize through a data governance model and look at those new departments that has been established and where do we stand? How can we re-look at how we just do our data governance maturity assessments? What innovation can we bring? What gaps are there in our culture? And how we can strengthen our policy making and our institutionalization. I thank you.
You muted, Jacques?
Thanks, Mushfika. Thank you, Zenit, and thank you, colleagues. And yeah, I'm glad to see there's so many of you still awake. It's an assumption, but I'm hoping to be positive about that. I think there's very few of the people around the TV screens today or the computer screens today that would not have cheered when the ship left the harbour. As you can see, the harbour is not, the ship is not near close to its final destination, as Zenit and many others have. In fact, there's been a couple of other ships that have left the harbour. And I think many of you are probably at the helm of those ships. So while we are all exploring this vast world of data, we realize that in many ways people say you cannot manage what you can't measure. But you can't measure anything if there's not data. And that data is not governed, the way that you measure it cannot be standardized, cannot be trusted. So for us to trust our work, data governance is essential. So thank you very much for your part in this quest, your support, your leadership, your guidance in many aspects. We really appreciate that. It's just a small snapshot of the work that's currently happening, and none of this, as the colleagues have alluded, is possible without the collaboration, cooperation, and support of all of our partners, colleagues, and all of you out there in this data world of ours. So I want to now give an opportunity. We're well on time. We have 25 minutes or so for questions and discussions. We don't have to take up all the time. And you are always welcome to jot us a line at a later stage if you wanted to ask anything else, if you don't want to talk on a public forum like this. But please, the recording will be made available. Jot down your questions in the chat box or stick up your hand and ask us whatever you would like to or make comments. We are all here to learn and to answer any questions that you may have. If there are any colleagues in the PDO or the team who've been working on these products who'd like to add something, even our friends from the Stats Council, you're welcome as well. Are we having an early afternoon?
It's a question, Joe. It's a question.
Okay. Right. Where does provincial parastatals fit into the data governance model? Provincial parastatals are, I'm talking about provincial entities like Cape Nature and those ones, Teresa, I'm thinking, being from Cape Nature. So Cape Nature falls under those provincial entities that we talked about. There will also be role players there that will be gained access to this. Obviously, the department that is hosting each of those provincial entities, Cathedral will be agriculture, Cape Nature will be environmental affairs, and so forth. They would be the ones who would help guide those departments. But are those not parastatals, provincial entities, but you're always welcome to contact Provincial Data Office as well, and we will put you in touch with the appropriate data champion or try and address the question as far as we can. I don't know, Therese, if that answers your question, if you have more to ask. No, thanks. Zenat has indicated the ecosystem consists of all of our partners at national, even international level, and at all of the role players in the Western Cape, and not only organs of state, but academia and so forth are also included. Thank you, Salman from Garden Route, and all the best there with some of the challenges experiencing there, but well done to the work as well. Mishwika has posted the email address for the Provincial Data Office. And as Zenat indicated, we will be sending out these presentations, including the DPM E1, as she mentioned, as a mail to each of the attendees of this meeting today. Zenat, I don't see any questions coming up, and as pointers are sitting here staring at each other this whole afternoon. I see one question from NF. Let's quickly fill that one. Nicolene. Hi, Nicolene. Welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation to these sessions. I feel really inspired. I think sometimes I feel like I'm one of the few people up here in Gauteng blowing the horn for data governance. So it's good to know that there's other people doing as well a sterling job like yourself. I have a question, and I do apologize if it's maybe been covered. I was called out to another meeting. But how did the province transition these data governance, let's say, structures and documents and policies to external stakeholders, and specifically things or people like NGOs? Was that a requirement to date? And if so, how did you do that? And I'm specifically looking not just at the rule, but maybe a cultural change that needed to happen with these external organizations. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nicolene. A very good question. Zenat, can I pass that rugby ball on to you?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. There is another question.
I see that's our
you want me to
esteemed
answer?
Dr. Mr. Esso. Meneer Esso?
I wanted to respond to Nicolene, but I'll give you the floor. Thank you.
Can I answer first?
Yes, please, and then Foldy can add to that.
Hi, thank you, Nicolene. Your question actually takes us back to we didn't even know if there was enough water in the sea for the ship to go, you know. It was remaining on anchor, and we were actually pushed in a direction in terms of to take on and embark on the data governance journey. So, you know, there are in the portal, in the portal that JDP have actually shared earlier, or kind of spoken earlier. There's a number of volumes on data governance, and that is a kind of where we started to set the vision, what we want to do. So there was that is well documented in terms of the process we follow. And if you look at the slide that Peter presented, that was just high level. But key to note, it is that in 2015, MNE was no longer sufficient for us to deliver insights, data insights for decision making. And we were challenged. And is that where the journey started, where we needed to transform structures informally into a provincial data office. And it took different approaches. whether it was a stream approach, whether it was a phase approach, whether it was drowning and surviving. But the support that we had at the time was a government structure called EPTM. No longer exists. It was PTM that dealt with all data and technology initiatives. But it was needed at the time to ground, to get the ship going, and to get government officials all to work together to shape this discourse. And within that journey was, what are the key initiatives that will be developed or established under 4 streams at the time? And that is where we articulated the data requirements. And it was for a reason that the leads actually had the cameras on, because they all started this journey at different times and different intervals. And there are some that may be in this room that were part of this journey. And I believe they became champions in another department. But it was a tough journey and was a hard road. So the message or the key the one key fundamental element that stands out is that performance data, M&E data, is not sufficient to drive service delivery and societal change. But the value of performance data can only be extracted if we bring it together in a broader ecosystem with other data. Hence, the picture that you saw under data insights. And that was not done through an OD exercise, an organizational development exercise. It was done through the PDO being open to actually take on an expansion of work beyond the title. So it was beyond being, I'm a deputy director and this is what I do. So we have demolished job descriptions and we have demolished our own performance agreements. To actually take on and transform into a provincial data office. So this journey, it is what the team, together with the specialists, have achieved, and together with the data champions in the departments. We couldn't do it alone. And we did it because of the passion that people have for data. And we did it because if I could pick up the phone and I call a person, and I'm just looking at all these titles here, AASM, and I look at one beautiful lady, no name here, but her name is Leslie from Department of Health. I just see her picture, and if I call her and I'm desperate in need for certain data, and I log the request, and I know I will get it within a particular time frame. So that partnership and that collaboration. And there's a lady here, also no name there, Marissa, from Population Unit, doing brilliant work in population data. But when we say Marissa and Julie, can you collaborate? Or her colleague Julian, can you collaborate? Then they collaborate. And I think that is the answer, a very long answer, but an answer that holds lots of passion, where people work together beyond what their job description tells them to do. So there's no formal structure signed off by DPSA called the Provincial Data Office. We have evolved into a Provincial Data Office. And I'm not officially a Chief Data Officer. We've assumed the role. But for that, I can only say thank you to everybody across Western Cape Government, even across people like you, Nicoline, in Gauteng, that we can work together. So I didn't know that your question is going to spark or such an emotional response from me. Peter, I can be soft and emotional, but this is about people, especially in the Western Cape Government, that's passionate about what they do as it relates to data. Whether it's performance data, spatial data, socio-economic data, small statistical area, no matter what field, qualitative data, quantitative data. And that is what holds us together. So I trust I've answered your question. I thank you.
Thanks, Zinette. Valdi, would you like to add?
I think just very quickly, Jacques, thanks. 90 seconds, Nicoline. Slightly different dimension. And I think the emphasis is two takeaways for you. I think on a lighter note, PDO sees itself as transformers. And I'm talking about the Marvel movie, so watch it again. And it's not being done necessarily PT and National Treasury, which says you need a structured DPSA before you can function. And we have so many structures in this country which is dysfunctional. They don't actually know what they must do. So what we have done is taken all the good bits as well across Western Cape Government, and this does not exclude public entities. We have worked with them. Some of us work with them more regularly than others, and it's been an interactive process. So the challenge was including Stats SA, and the message is, do not wait for your national counterparts. Do not wait for DPSA. Do not wait for DPME, and neither for the NSS to make things happen. You should actually take your best foot or put your best foot forward. And in fact, the irony of it is all those national counterparts are coming to the Western Cape to engage us, to say, oh, how did you do this and why did you do that? So initiative should not be misunderstood, neither misinterpreted as saying you have no mandate. I think the one clear message of government of national unity is that irrespective of your manifestos and other stuff, you are forced to work together to govern this country. And you have to do that in one form or another. And that message is long overdue for all the spheres of government in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Valdi. I can't agree more with you. And I think I just want to add something small in terms of, we had a disaster really recently. I'm not talking about the floods. I'm talking about COVID. And COVID was a tragic time in the country's history, in the world's history, but it also gave us huge opportunities from a data perspective. That's where we started realizing that the importance of getting clean data that can be integrated into multiple systems is essential. And the NGOs, Nicolene, you talked about, we don't have any power over them. We can advise, but they need to decide, and they need to see the value of the data that they are collecting and how that fits into the bigger system. Valdi alluded to the National Statistical System as ZNet as well, and that's important, but that focuses on official statistics. There's such a huge part of the country that manages administrative data. Our whole goal is to try and get the administrative data within the Western Cape to a level of acceptable statistics. And the only way to do that is by implementing proper and commonly practiced data governance principles and practices. So when you talk about how do we change hearts and minds, if you have a common goal, if you have a common dream in mind, if you think about the Springbok rugby team, how that one team, one nation, and many other sporting codes have used the same thing. When we dream together, we don't mind working together. We love working together for a common purpose. And in this sense, as Valdi's now just mentioned, this new government of national unity, I think, has brought a fresh breath of air in the country and a willingness between political parties to start working. We've seen evidence of that even in the Western Cape, where national departments are keen to come down to the Western Cape now because there's that spirit of collaboration that's happening at a political level at the highest levels. And because of that, I think we have a great opportunity, all of us, to leverage this and to really strengthen all of our opportunities when it comes to integrating, collaborating, and improving data governance across the country, from the top levels all the way down to the NGO and lower even. So yes, I think there was a very important question, but the focus from our data governance perspective is about improving that administrative data that all of us are privy to, and all of us on one space or another are managing, and getting that to a level of acceptable statistics. We're working very hard, and we've got some strong contacts at the Stats Council that support us in that. So yes, absolutely true. Thank you very much. Any other comments, colleagues? After this passionate outpour of emotion in terms of our support for data governance, and I think there's, we may sound like a few in the wind, but I think there's many behind us and there's many next to us that'll take us on this journey together. I think you've come to realize that, as Zinette mentioned, in the PDO, we function on passion. We're not so much worried about the structures and things like that. We complain about those things, but we got to get the job done. We know how important this job is. And I think many of you out there feel the same way. So thank you very much for taking our hands and going with us on this quest across the data governance exploration and this journey that we're on. We're bound to find many, many treasures, but yes, there's climate change and there's storms ahead, but we will overcome them. We endeavor to persevere, because this too shall pass. But one thing will not pass is the amount of work that's left for us. So, colleagues, thank you very much. Please feel free to jot us a line. Thank you, Tim. I don't know when we're going to reach a safe harbor, but thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Contact us, any questions, and we'd love to see you all pretty soon. Cheerio. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.